Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Digital EDU Dialogues podcast. I'm your host, Angela Britcher, and joining me today is Sheila Fry, the COO of the Babb Group. And we are going to talk about something that every faculty member and administrator is facing right now, and that's the oversight of courses and course development and why instructional designers are such a key part of that success. Sheila, thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm so glad to be back. And it's such a good topic to talk about because it impacts so many people, little changes, big changes. It's often underestimated. So it'll be good to talk about it.
And I'm sure we both have experiences to share of working in classrooms that could use some oversight, and how nice it is to have some oversight when we're
Yes.
redeveloping. So
Yes,
let's
we'll
start with,
definitely be able to talk about both those sides of the coin. So yeah, there's so many things to talk about. Yeah.
let's start with the basics. Why do courses need oversight even after they've been developed?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is, and hopefully they're not saying, okay, it's a one and done. Courses are not static. You can't create a course and that's your course for the next 10, 15 years. Things change, demands change, people change, textbook change, student needs change. There's so many of these aspects to it. And without that level of oversight to be able to do that, you're just kind of opening the door to potentially errors. Faculty are fantastic. A lot of times you might have course leads that are overseeing a course and they're going to take that time to do these little updates potentially, but they're busy. We know how it is. They're overloaded. They're very tired. They're overworked. They're trying to do something in a hurry. Oh, I'm just going to quick update to this new textbook, but they may forget all those key pieces that are involved in all the areas that it may be covered. So having that oversight and that additional help or even extra set of IDIs can really make a difference in minimizing the mistakes and improving that update overall.
Mhm. I'm experiencing this from both ends right now as a faculty member and as a student. And thinking about how many times as a faculty member, there's an update to a course and faculty don't necessarily know what happened. If you're not the lead faculty on the course, or if you're an adjunct. And
Yeah.
so you come in expecting that things are the same or that the changes are really minor. I made huge changes to a course last year and realized, oh, I need to let every person who's potentially teaching this course in the next year that there's been a restructuring and a reorganization of this course, and how important it is that they go into the semester understanding that so they can take the time to familiarize themselves with it and to look at it. And as a student, I'm in a course where there was a textbook update. And what happened was the textbook was removed from the syllabus instead of the next edition being put in there. So all of the students, we get to week 2 and we're like, where's this case study? What is this textbook? None of us had bought the book.
Right,
And
right. And
we were,
there's good intentions. There were good
yeah.
intentions of the faculty member that did it had good intentions. But I thought something that you said was I thought was very important in communicating that to other faculty because I also in teaching faculty, I have notes from all the things when I've taught a course before that I use. I can need to make sure to talk about this. I'm going to use this as some of my discussion prompts. Here are all my announcements that I'm going to use for the course. Well, if there's a big overhaul, I mean, you're taking that and tossing it in the trash. Or if I sit there and I haven't paid attention to what's gone on in the class, anything I'm putting in there's wrong. Or I go to make the discussions and suddenly, here we're starting and oh wow, this is completely different than what I had before. So I need to change shift real quickly. And then what else happened?
Right, because once it happens to you, in week 1 or 2, then you're like, "Oh, wait." Um,
Right.
and we can say, sure, as faculty, it's incumbent upon us to go through an entire course before we teach it. But if it's a course that you've taught a bunch of times or a course you teach every semester, there's an
So
expectation that's going to stay relatively the same until someone tells you different.
right.
And I'm sure that's what happened in the course that I'm taking. It was a surprise. And examples from the textbook are different between editions. And luckily we have a really great instructor in the course. Is like, let's just not worry about that this week. Let's discuss this instead.
Mhm.
And so, but it puts a lot of pressure on faculty to pivot really quickly. And so I think it's so important that there need to be some oversight. There needs to be some second set of eyes when changes are made, and that those changes are communicated to faculty.
Yeah.
So ultimately,
Like
they
we've
can be
said,
communicated to students.
exactly. Like we said before, I mean, faculty are so important in all this and they carry so much weight for this, but just by that little additional, can you give someone some ID support just for the oversight because of how they're going to look at something differently and help you hey, you changed it here. Is it listed somewhere else? You know, all those types of things. So it really, just that little bit of support can really make a difference.
So let's talk about some of the really practical things that instructional designers bring to course oversight and course development that can help with that process.
Yeah. Well, first off is as you're looking at it, they're going to help you with discussions. And you know, I've talked about this. Anyone who knows me talked about this. I won't get on my soapbox again to talk about this today, but discussion is not an assignment. Your discussion should not be a research paper. Your discussion should not be a situation where the 25, 35, 50 students in your class potentially will all come up with the same conclusion. That's ask and tell, you know. So use that instructional designer or your support tools or chair or whatever to help you think about how can you do it differently? How can you make them open-ended? How can you do this? So they can support with that. Another one is having consistent due dates. So one week it can't be, well, this is due on Friday and this is due on Sunday. And then, okay, the next week we've got, oh, there's something you have to post on Tuesday. They get stressed. It's very stressful to students. They're the same as faculty, the same as everybody else. They're very busy, especially adult learners. They're taking these classes in addition to families, full jobs, everything else. So having that consistent due date, making sure the easiest way that we do with a lot of them is, okay, everything's due at the end of the week. Maybe you might have a midweek for discussions to get started, but have everything at least consistent no matter what date you pick. So it's week to week from course to course. Then having consistent templates and consistent course structures. We see that a lot, that it's kind of like, you know, the circus, anything goes kind of thing. If you aren't going to do it as an institutional template where you have at least have your programs, you know, your business program, your psychology program, your, you know, whatever, at least that program has the same platform and same organizational structure and layout, because then the students aren't spending time trying to figure out where content is. They're able to find it. They're spending time learning instead of trying to, you know, search for what you're doing. And then obviously making sure that the content is updated, that you aren't, you know, working from a textbook from 2015, because one, I'm sure there's probably been 6 textbooks since then that have gone through, numerous broken links. In most industries, there's been significant changes. So what you're talking about then really doesn't reflect current practices. So your students aren't getting those current practices. And just making sure that there aren't broken links and any of those types of things. So again, having the extra set of eyes, and something else too with this is that, and this will vary from LMS to LMS. Some LMSs will, you know, as a faculty, we put something, oh, I put this here, it's in week 6, it's in week 4, I've introduced it in week 1. Well, in some LMSs, those are independent pages. And did you remember to update it on every one of those pages?
Yeah.
So that's the real value of an ID. Hey, I remember that we put this here. We need to make sure to update this on A, B, C, D pages. Otherwise, the student's going to have misinformation, broken content, whatever. So that's a big deal. And then, of course, obviously starting with backwards design. When you're looking at that oversight that you haven't taken and designed the course from, here's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, you know, you're not flowing it by the text that you've chosen or OER or whatever, but you're doing it by what are the outcomes, what's necessary that the students learn and take away to achieve those outcomes. One, so you can show mastery, you can map it, you can keep all those things in line and to check all those boxes that, yes, you've done this, but it allows you to focus and take out that fluff without just going, you know, sequentially through a textbook.
And as you were sharing these ideas and thinking about something that stood out for me, particularly this semester, is the idea of updating courses. And we think about updating a textbook or resources and broken links, but I think we also need to pay attention to updating content. I was working in a course that had some really outdated examples. And sometimes, you know, we want to refer to historical events or something really big in an industry that happened, but we also need to make it relevant to our students. And I think allow them to generate examples as well. Like I like to go in and change, if students have a paper and they can make choices between a couple examples, I always like to add or one approved by your instructor. Like,
Yes.
come up with an idea. Maybe there's a company you want to study or a situation that would make sense to you for this paper or this project. And so I think that's part of updating and updating content is thinking about examples and our language and style, and that's part of creating engaging learning experiences for students. And I think, again, allowing them to make choices about what they are studying. You talked about discussions that, if everyone has the same answer, what's the point? And yes, in math, and there are sciences where that also matters. As someone who teaches in humanities, how important it is that everyone's not writing the same paper, right? We want people to draw different conclusions about a topic or apply the information in unique ways that make sense to them and is something they can ultimately apply to their career. And I think that's another piece of it, is ensuring that our curriculum is career focused as we are looking to update. And there's been such a new shift to that. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to go in and update curriculum and look at how can we make this applicable to students' jobs. I'm teaching a consulting class right now, and I was working with students on part of their group project the other day, and one of them said something about trying to work ahead. And I said, oh, wait, the purpose of this assignment isn't to trick you. It's so at the end of the semester, you have a consulting plan to put in your portfolio of work. You get to go to a job interview and say, I've created a consulting plan. I know how to do this. I worked with a real company. And so I think always looking for ways that we can implement those kinds of projects that students have something they can show for it at the end, not just, oh, I took an exam or wrote the final paper to demonstrate my learning. It's, I have something I can show other people that is meaningful and can be applied to work.
Yeah. And that totally reinforces, the reason that you need that oversight, the reason that you need to be updating those things, because, we don't need Enron papers anymore. One, this generation probably of student might not even know who Enron is. But what are those fundamentals and those skills and those companies that impact them within their field within their major? Whether, no matter what it is, being able to find actionable skills, like your consulting example, to be able to, how can they do this and they can take it away. So then tomorrow they can impact their lives and improve it by what they're learning here. So the outdated material is one, it's not even going to engage a student anymore. They might think they're saving money, but in the end, they're kind of shortchanging the students and the faculty.
Yeah. And right, that's part of students persisting, is they've had a good learning experience and they want more. I was also thinking, as you were talking about, in the ID world, we're just so accustomed to using checklists, right? We've got project management tools and checklists. And I've worked as an adjunct for several institutions where they'll give us a checklist to go into our classrooms, make sure we've done these final checks before publishing and giving our class to students. But as we talk about like updating texts and things and thinking about the importance of having that oversight of how does that impact quizzes and rubrics and all those little tiny things in a course that a faculty don't always have time to look for between semesters. If you got 2 weeks,
it could be page numbers, because how many times do we know that someone said read chapter 4 that starts on page 52? Well, now chapter 4 could start on page 65, and everything is messed up in all those things. So you need that, or to, like you said, okay, I'm changing this. Well, is that a scaffolded assignment? How does your changing this, has it impacted, is the rubric correct? Like you mentioned, does it impact what we're talking about? Do we need to add some additional resources to reinforce what you're trying to do this time, to make sure that it's a strong learning environment? So that's why, faculty, we do it, and we try to do it quickly because we don't have much time, and I need to get this done before the course starts next session. But sometimes it's worse because the students get stressed when things are missing or links are broken. I had that one myself this session where the final paper was supposed to be submitted to turn it in before they submitted it finally. Well, the school as a whole removed turn it in. It's not even there. It's not even an option. I couldn't turn it on if I wanted to. But here it's telling them. And so I, got a bunch of, where do I do this? And even though I put the assignment, and again, I tried to be proactive and said, okay, I put it within the assignment that said, you do not need to turn this in here, just submit it, to the assignment link here. But it was somewhere else in the course that I didn't know about that mentioned you had to put it to turn it in. So, again, the extra set of eyes, now that this is done, how can we check it and look for these things to make sure that the students aren't stressed out? Because if they're stressed out again, they're stressed out too much, they're just going to say, this is not worth it, and I'm done. And we don't want that to happen. We want it to be positive. We want them to stay.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's shift gears and talk a little about AI, because we just thinking about how it seems like a much cheaper option, right? I'm going to use AI instead of an instructional designer, instead of having faculty design a course. Or how do IDs fit into this? And how do we help keep the real human voice in our courses?
Yeah, it's important. And I'm glad you said that, because I know a place that I teach did that recently and said, hey, we did 25 courses this session with AI. And, the ID may have looked at it a little bit, but I know that the one I taught when I got it was AI. One, because you can spot the cadence, you can spot the structure, you can spot the layout. It was too much. It was ridiculous, to be quite frank. And I looked at it and I'm like, this is going to be a really long term, because every week and everything was like that. It was too much. So while AI is great for brainstorming, I love it. I use it myself. I can talk to it like a buddy and say, hey, I'm working on this. I want to do this type of assignment with this is the outcome I want to do. I'm thinking, how can I do it as a case? Or, I use it to help me brainstorm some of these things. But you need the voice, because the faculty is the expert. The faculty is why the students are there. Otherwise, it would all be self-paced, independent learning. The faculty is the voice. The faculty needs to feel comfortable and encouraged to, this is how I see it in what I do every day. This is where so-and-so industry exhibits this. Without that voice, the students lose that touch and that real knowledge to be able to take it and apply it. So that's the really big deal, to be able to do that. And the students want it. They want you there. They want your expertise. They want to hear you. They want to know what you know. They're sponges that want to literally learn what you're trying to tell them. So use AI for those efficiencies, those things that can help you, get started. And then you take it from there and put in your voice, put in your expertise, put in your knowledge. But the biggest thing too with the IDs with that is your ID can help you with that structure. We say that a lot when we talk to clients. I need you for your knowledge, your expertise, what you're doing. Your ID is going to be your cheerleader and help you with the structure and the layout and those bits and pieces to help reinforce everything that you've come up with and that you want to achieve. But along with that, and then just the oversight of it. Again, we've talked about making sure there's not mistakes, making sure, hey, I know we did this in week 4, but I know you changed this. So, maybe we introduce it. Or that's great that you got this project that's in week 7. How about maybe it makes sense to scaffold it. You're covering all these topics in weeks 2, 5, and 6. Maybe we scaffold it and there's a deliverable. You can provide more feedback. They can build on it and then have a more robust submission at the end. So it's the conversations that you can have with the ID that you can't necessarily, AI is only as smart as the inputs that you're given there. Where your ID might tell you, AI is not going to tell you that probably isn't going to work. The faculty might say, I get what you're trying to do. Let's look at this a little different. And if we tweak this, we can make that work just like you wanted.
And I think it's also just role modeling for our students too.
Yeah,
right? We don't expect them. We don't want them to take a prompt and plug it into AI and take the full result.
No, absolutely.
every instructional designer I've ever worked with has had effective writing skills for education, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the ability to take, an assignment that you've consulted with AI on to help you create, or to help you create the rubrics for, and then to work collaboratively with a subject matter expert to say, let's put this in words and in language and tone and style that's going to resonate with the students at this institution. And or how do we put this in your voice? And how do we create something that sounds like a human wrote it? Because we all know what AI sounds like and reads like. I repurposed an assignment that I did not create. It was an in-class discussion assignment. I repurposed it from something I'd found in a textbook, and I had printed it out. I gave it to students yesterday, and a student said to me, "Is this AI?" I'm like, "Right, they are on the lookout for it. They don't want it. They want a real human being," and they remind me of that every day, whether I'm teaching in person or online. They want to know that a real human being is there.
Want value for the tuition money.
Yeah, they want to know a human is listening, that a human is reading their work and evaluating it and giving them real feedback. It's so important to our student population.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's why we do it, right? We're there for students. So as instructional designers or as faculty that are designing, it's so crucial that we put that human voice into our
absolutely.
courses.
Absolutely.
All right. This has been a fantastic discussion. Any final thoughts for us?
All I can say is to faculty, if you're doing this, or to any administrators, just start small. You need to start somewhere. Give the people the support that they need, faculty, IDs, whomever that you're having do it. Just give them the support and start small. And then don't struggle alone if you don't have to. Everyone knows it's hard. Don't make it harder.
Fantastic. All right, Sheila, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Great to be here.
This episode of DigitalEDU Dialogues is brought to you by the Babb Group. The demands for teaching and online learning are constantly evolving. Don't get left behind. Carve out a competitive edge and give students engaging learning experiences with support from the Babb Group's team of course design experts. As experienced online faculty and instructional designers, the Babb Group knows how to craft those aha moments for students and meet outcomes for every modality, online, hybrid, and face-to-face, creating engaging, welcoming, and inclusive learning spaces for students of all ages and abilities has never been more important. Discover how the Babb Group can help you by visiting their website today.